a friend of mine. He was selling a graphing calculator and arranging to meet the buyer at a shopping center. The buyer wanted to test it out, but it didn't have batteries. My friend agreed to ride to a grocery store with him to pick up batteries. On the way back to where they originally met, buyer took the calculator to test it out. He plays with it for a minute, agrees it is in good condition, and passes it back to my friend. On the screen, the buyer had typed, "You are kidnapped." My friend finishes reading it, buyer locks doors and speeds up. My friend panics. Then the buyer stopped and started laughing and gives my friend money, and lets him out, and tells him to be more careful. I once met up with some guy on Craigslist to buy his used copy of Fallout 3. And I had deliberately left out the fact that I was girl, since I assumed that it would help minimize the creeper potential, but it didn't. 40 minutes later, he's still trying to convince me to trade the game for sex. I grabbed the game and shoved $30 in his face, and ran off. I bought Xbox 360 from a Craigslist ad. The kid selling it was like 17. We met at a public location Starbucks at my request. I handed him the money, he handed me the Xbox. Then he asked me if he could buy me a coffee. I declined. He asked me if I wanted to go out sometime. I declined. I thanked him for the Xbox, and left. Well, unfortunately, he had my phone number and email address. As I had responded to his ad, he started sending me these long, angst-filled teenage emails about how he was in love with me, and I was his destiny, and texting me dozens of times a day. I foolishly let a strange guy come to my house to buy a used iPad for his son. He handed me $40 less in cash than I asked in my ad, saying it was all the cash he had, and that he figured it was a fair price. When I refused to accept what he offered, he became irate, red in the face, and slapped my table with his palm. He said I was being greedy, and that everyone selling on Craigslist negotiates their asking price. I tried to calm him down by saying that I had only had the ad in for one day, and I would be glad to call him if I couldn't sell it for my asking price. He angrily decided he still wanted it, and left to go to his bank to get the $40, slamming my door behind him so hard that the house shook. As soon as he left, I texted him not to come back, because I had changed my mind about selling the iPad after all. He texted me back apologizing, but I never responded. I went to buy a semi-rare video game, Final Fantasy Tactics, before it became a greatest hit. I met this girl in a Wendy's parking lot. She gave me the CD case. I opened it, and it was empty. I demanded my $20 back. She looked at me and said, if I did anything other than leave, she would lie and say I assaulted her. I pulled out my phone and started to pretend to record her. My cell at the time had no camera, and she started stumbling around, pretending I had attacked her. After a minute of this silliness, our eyes met, and I think she realized how ridiculous this was getting, and gave me my money back. My older brother used to hook up with people on casual encounters. He had done this a few times without any issue, usually with people that were in town for business. He would call me and tell me about it, bragging and stuff. I told him to be careful, that he doesn't wake up in a bathtub missing a kidney. He claimed he had it under control. Not too much later, he called me in the morning. He told me that he had plans to meet up with this really hot girl in a hotel room somewhere on the east side. I think she wanted him to bring some pills or drugs, and he decided not to. Good thing he didn't go that night, because on the news there were stories of people getting jumped and robbed at the hotel when trying to meet up with people from Craigslist. Apparently the girl would be waiting in the room with some big dude in there too. As far as I know, he hasn't tried hooking up on Craigslist again. I met up with a woman at Starbucks to buy a violin. I get there on time and then get a text message that she's going to be 20 minutes late. No big deal for me. I can hang out at the Bucks for 20 minutes. She was making me wait because she had another interested buyer who was also meeting her at the same Starbucks. That 20 minutes was to make sure the other interested party would be there when I was. She tried to initiate a bidding war between me and this other person in the coffee shop. I was really annoyed, because I had already agreed on the price in the ad, and I didn't have an extra $100 to outbid this person. So I said, "This is not what I showed up here for," and left. I got a call later from the seller. After I was gone, the other interested buyer tried talking the price down to below what I was going to pay for it. She offered the violin to me again at the price we agreed to, before she tried to get me in a bidding competition with someone else. And I told her I wasn't interested anymore. I wanted to sell an old couch from my previous house, because we were getting 2 new roommates and they already had couches. I posted the ad and 15 minutes later I got an email. The guy said he would pay $75 for the couch. I had listed it at $100, but would bring some Xbox games to trade to make up the difference. I said okay, nice. So he pulls up in a truck with 2 women in the truck bed. I insist on helping him get the couch outside, but he says no, and has the 2 women to do it. Then, it gets interesting. He says he only has $50, but if I took the money, he would give me one of the girls for 20 minutes. Keep in mind, he told me this, as the couch is sitting in his truck. I didn't know what to say. I took the $50 and said to just leave. He was felt insulted for some reason and threatened to come back and beat my ass and rob me blind. We moved to our new house the next day with our new roommates. Fast forward a month. I read in my school's newspaper, and on the front page was a picture of my old street with a headline of "Man arrested intimidating students at a party with a crowbar." My old residence. I read on. His name was Bruce and his criminal background included 17 misdemeanors and a drop rape and attempted kidnapping charge. Also, just as icing on the cake, he was also wanted in Ohio on numerous stalking charges. Craigslist. Never again.